I'm sure some of you guys had a fantastic weekend out there boating on the water, and others maybe not so much, just like some of the incidents we'll see in this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. Our first story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to a remote Russian village in the far eastern portion of the country, as this was the scene this past week when the cargo ship Maria was carrying lumber for a local timber company when all of a sudden it had a major shift in cargo and wound up dumping tons of lumber over the side of the vessel. And for those who haven't seen lumber prices recently, well, guess what? They are through the roof. And I'm gonna be shocked if this doesn't start a massive gold rush of people trying to go over and recover this lumber. This is the scene along the coast of a remote Russian village where just tons of this lumber has washed up on the beach. Now, the local lumber company Ternelis, whose lumber this is, has started cleanup on several Russian beaches where the lumber has come ashore, but I have to imagine these aren't the only locations that look like this, and some of these locations are probably going to be extremely remote and difficult to get machinery in to try and get this lumber recovered, so it'll be interesting to see if we have locals out there trying to do their own version of recovery on this. The incident is under investigation to try and determine exactly what happened. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to bring us back to North America, where this was the scene just a few days ago, where this tugboat, crane, and barge caused a massive power outage in Toronto. The scene was absolute chaos. This was a main power line supplying power to most of the downtown area. The incident occurred this past Thursday around noon, leaving approximately 10,000 businesses and local power customers without power, pretty much putting downtown Toronto in the dark. The local power company Hydro One did release a statement stating that the outage was caused by a barge moving a crane in the upright position that ran into a high voltage transmission line in the Portlands down on the Toronto waterfront. The crane and barge were being moved to a future construction site where the city was building a new main wastewater treatment plant in Ash Bay Bridges. Fortunately, nobody on the tugboat, barge, or crane were injured during this incident. The City of Toronto has launched a full investigation to try and determine why this crane was being moved in the full upright position. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to the Spanish coastline, where this was the scene a little over a week ago when the Spanish Coast Guard received an emergency radio alert stating that a boat was in trouble approximately 14 miles off the coast of Galicia, Spain. Once the Coast Guard helicopter arrived, they found the vessel to be capsized and completely upside down. They immediately lowered a diver down to the boat's hull who began banging on the hull looking for any signs of life on board the vessel, and to their surprise, somebody actually banged back. This is one of the wildest rescue scenes of the year, as this crew worked for 16 hours and wound up successfully pulling the 62-year-old sailor out from this capsized vessel and successfully getting him back home. The rescuers claim that one of the main reasons this was such a success was the sailor was actually wearing a specially designed sailing suit that helped keep him dry and warm. While we're in Spain, let's go ahead and stay here for our next story this week, and that's where Spanish authorities found a little bit of a hidden surprise on board the bulker Nord Mamor this past week. The vessel was in port refueling as it carried a cargo of corn headed for Lisbon, Portugal, when all of a sudden local authorities boarded the vessel to go ahead and do an inspection. But this wasn't just your everyday inspection, they actually had divers on board to go inspect the hull, and what they found inside the engine cooling lines was quite a surprise below the waterline. They found 6 bushels of narcotics tied together within those cooling lines. Now, I'm not sure how this crew actually found this. They had to remove the grates of the cooling lines and get in here to actually search. I have to imagine somehow somebody was tipped and these guys knew this was here. The estimated value of their total find was approximately $40 million. Now, prior to arriving in Spain, this vessel had documented itself at several ports in Brazil, and that is believed where this narcotics actually came from. But that's one heck of a find and one difficult way to get it there. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out on your waterways, be sure to hit me up on Facebook or Instagram and let me know, and you might see your stories over here. Just like Robert Burns, Chris Braggs, Brano Drano, and Nick C did this week. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here. If not, we're coming to steal your drain plug.